Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. So as Bethany said, a few years ago, about 10 years ago, I started Sans Child Inc., named in memory of my mother, in order to talk about bullying. I was a classroom teacher at an inner city school, and I saw bullying every single day that I taught. And I saw it so much around the girls that I wanted to basically have a conversation with girls and with bullying. So I'm so excited that Dr. Wilkes and the board members of WET have allowed me today to talk about something that is very passionate to me. So thank you for this space. And I really hope that it helps someone. We're going to jump right in. I was a teacher for 10 years, marketing and economics. I'm an interactive teacher because sometimes economics could be boring. So today I would just ask that you interact with me as we go through the process. I won't make it grueling and hard, but I would just like your feedback in some areas and for you just to reply during the chat if you feel so compelled. So we'll jump right in. Today's topic is workplace bullying, facts or myths. So on the screen, you will see A, B, C, or D. A, it's a fact, you know it's a fact. B, it's a myth. C, you're just not sure. D, maybe, but I need evidence. So if you would just type your response in the chat box, whether it's an A, a B, a C, or a D, and we'll see the responses. Or let me see if I can look at the chat box. I see a lot of A's. I see some D's. I see a lot of A's. A lot of A's. I see a few D's, a lot of A's, definitely a lot of A's. All right, so thank you for that. Thank you for responding. So let's move on to the next slide. The next one says, workplace bullying among women. The same concept. Do you think that's a fact, a myth? Not sure. Maybe, but I need a little bit more evidence. Give me your thoughts on that as well. I see a large number of A's. I see some D's. I see some A's. Maybe, not sure. Very good. All right, well, we have some talking to do today. So one more exercise for this moment. If you have your cell phones near you, if you would just hold your cell phones up to the QR code, it will take you to a poll everywhere. And when you hold it up, you're just going to put two words that come to mind. You have two opportunities to answer when you think of the word workplace bullying. When you hear someone say it, when you read the word somewhere, what does that mean to you? What do you feel? What do you sense? How does it feel to you when you hear someone say workplace bullying? And we'll show the results in just a moment. I see someone put in the chat trauma. That's a good word. That's a really powerful word for workplace bullying. All right, so I hope you've all had the opportunity to respond. Let's see if the Wordle has given us anything. So if you look at the Wordle or the word cloud, we have uncomfortable, we have intimidation, aggression, unnecessary, unfair, mean, hopelessness, power, yucky, comments, dynamics. We're still getting some in, uncomfortable, tension, unfair, trauma, wrong, demoralizing, toxic, concern, exhausting. I love that one. Exhausting, aggression, vindictive, defeat mean? So thank you all for participating. Many of these words will come up today as we go throughout the presentation. So you have a pretty good grasp of what workplace bullying is and what it looks like. So I'm going to define it for you as defined by the Workplace Bullying Institute. It's defined as a repeated pattern of behaviors that harms, intimidates, offends, degrades, or humiliates an employee, possibly in front of other employees, clients, or customers, normally by a person of authority, but it can also be within peer groups at work, or it actually can go from the subordinate to the boss in some situations. So one of the big questions that I always deal with is bullying illegal? Bullying within itself is not illegal. Unfortunately, there is no federal law that prohibits bullying unless it involves harassment. And harassment would be based on your race, your color, your religion, your origin, your sex, your age, if you're over 40, your marital status, disability, sexual orientation, gender identity, veteran military status, and other protected areas. But if it's just a person who's just bullying you because they don't like your dress or they just don't like you, that's not really protected. And so states are moving to have laws put into place. Tennessee, where we reside, or most of us reside, has a healthy workplace bill. So what that means is they encourage coworkers, employers, employees to look out for one another and to incorporate laws and anti-bullying training with their professionals at work. Puerto Rico has instituted House Bill 306. And in this bill, it prohibits or prevents workplace bullying. California now requires if an organization has 50 or more employees, they have to do training. Training is mandatory for those employees. So states are coming around, but on a federal level, bullying has not yet been deemed as illegal. So let's talk about some of the stats. And this will surprise some of you. Some of you may not be surprised by it, but workplace bullying is 4 times more common than sexual harassment and racial discrimination. According to a recent US workplace bullying survey, 65 million Americans reported being affected by bullying. 65 million Americans. The Workplace Bullying Institute found that 43% of remote workers reported being bullied or witnessing bullying. And that was a shocker for me, because in the pandemic society of remote work, I would just assume that bullying would go down. But 43% of remote workers have reported that bullying has taken place. In a 2008 poll, it was found that 75% of employees reported being affected as either a target or a witness of bullying. And in 2019, a monster.com survey found that nearly 94% of 2,081 employees who were surveyed said that they had experienced bullying. So out of the 2,081 employees, 1,956 had experienced some form of bullying. And over half of the participants in the Monster.com survey said that they were bullied by a boss or a manager. And unfortunately, those in power are more likely to bully. So when I was growing up, and I'm sure most of you know, there was a saying that we use: sugar and spice and everything nice. I grew up like that, and my grandmother and my mother and my aunts, they would say, but little boys are made of snakes and snails and puppy dog tails, but girls are sugar and spice and everything nice. But based on the facts and the stats that I'm about to share with you, perhaps they are sugar and spice, but not so nice. The Workplace Bullying Institute found that women bully other women up to 80% of the time. So if you're at work getting bullied by a woman, you're in good standing, because a lot of women are feeling that. The Workplace Bullying Institute also found that a third of workplace bullies were women. Women who report to women experience a greater frequency of bullying, abuse, and job sabotage. And there's often high turnover among women who report to women bosses. It's uncanny to think that, but That is true. And we'll get into the whys and the whats a little bit later, but just giving you some facts right now. Another page of facts: 2 out of 3 women feel that they've been bullied at work by their female colleagues. And a 2009 study published in Gender and Management found that women believe that women make great managers, good managers, but they didn't want to work for them. I found that to be interesting. And I've heard women say that before, that I love to see women in power, but I don't want to work for them. Lastly, a Forbes article in 2012 noted that women were the worst kind of bullies. They were more vicious and they were nastier than their male counterparts. I hope that that is not true, but as I've studied women and fighting among young girls, I know that girls fight to the death. They will get into a fight where boys will stop fighting and will make friends the next day. Girls will hold on to that and go and hold grudges. So maybe it begins in girlhood and we never stop it before it gets to adulthood. So the importance of female friendships. And so when we talk about workplace bullying among women, people say, well, why is that so important? Because as females, as women, we're nurturers. We love to be in groups and have group interactions. We love connections. We love friendships. We treasure our friendships. I've had friends for 20 years that I still have now and I still talk to. We tell each other our secrets, our hopes, our dreams, our aspirations. We share our accomplishments. When we have children, we name each other the godmothers and we take our children to each other's homes. We value that socialization. Even at 40 and 50, we still have potluck dinners. We go on girls' trips where it's just us. We leave the kids and the husbands at home and we just go have fun. We have get-togethers because that is what soothes our soul. So it's so important when we go to work that we have these connections, and we don't often have them if you have bullying at work. And those things are important to women. A UCLA study found that female friendships keep you from serious illness. They add years to your life. They help you bounce back from trauma, and they help your career. And I know 2 of these to be very true. When I was in the hospital, my female friends came over to my house. They checked on me. They called me. They were my iron tribe. And that's what I call them. My good girlfriends, I call them my iron tribe because iron sharpens iron. They keep me in line and they can help your career. One, they may know some networking possibilities, but also a lot of times when you see your friends advancing and doing things, it makes you say, oh, I want to do that too. And they help you out. So friendships among women are so very pivotal and important. So relational aggression, this is what I did my dissertation and my doctorate research on. And Nikki Crick was the one who coined the term in 1995, relational aggression. And it's really just a form of covert bullying. It's bullying that takes place within friendships. So a lot of times this will be called a frenemy. She's not really a friend, she's a friend of me, but you think she's a friend. But when you notice things like sarcasm all the time, or zingers, as we used to say at Saturn, they're gossiping behind your back. My grandmother would say, if they take a bone, they'll bring a bone. So if they're gossiping about everybody and you included, when you get mad, you exclude one another from the trips. You may not invite some to the girl trips. They reveal secrets. You know, as girls, as good girlfriends, we share secrets with one another. We tell them about what happened here and what happened there. And you're telling this person in confidence, but then they begin to start revealing those secrets. And then they condescendingly joke or say something mean or spiteful, and they say, oh, I'm just joking. And that happens more times than you like to talk about. That's a reaction, and it's known as relational aggression, and it happens within relationships. And a lot of times that's what we see in the bullying experience. All right, so why relational aggression? Number one, it's hard to prove. There's no number two, there's no physical evidence. There are no scars, there are no cuts, there are no bruises. There's nothing to prove that you have been relationally aggressive, that nobody has talked about you. There also is a lack of consequences. There's not a lot in place that people can get in trouble for. As we just stated, bullying is not illegal. Words are not illegal. They're powerful, but they're not illegal. So you can actually hurt people with your words, but there are no consequences in place for that. There are no interventions. As we saw before, as I stated, some states are requiring training for workplace bullying, but there are really not a lot of interventions and prevention methods that are taking place. So people get away with it. Bishop T.D. Jakes said something that was pivotal to my life. And I tell the girls this all the time, the girls that I meet with. Sadly, many who attack with words do it because it's the crime least likely to be prosecuted and is seldom detected. I don't know how you grew up, but I grew up with this in my mind all the time. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And I quoted that on playgrounds throughout my childhood. I quoted it everywhere, and I thought it really was true. It's the furthest thing from a true statement that there ever was. Maya Angelou says, words are things. She says, I'm convinced someday we'll be able to measure the power of words. I think they are things. I think they get on the walls. They get in the wallpaper. They get in your rugs, in your upholstery, in your clothes, and finally into you. I agree with that statement. I agree that our words are so powerful. For those of you who are Christians and believe in the creation story, God didn't come down and put the world together brick by brick and with a shovel. He spoke it. And so we have that same power that in our words. And so what are your words doing? Are you uplifting or are you deflating people with your words? And words are the hardest form of bullying to prove, but they are the most used form of bullying. And of course, workplace bullying. Definitely, Regina, is that Dumbledore said it too, words are the most powerful weapon we have. Absolutely agree with that. Absolutely, definitely. So when in Sans Child, we talk to the girls about the bullying equation. We try to make bullying as real as possible to them. So the bullying equation, as I've created, is basically the bullied and the historically the bully and the bullied, the victim. And that's bullying behavior. But as I've started studying bullying and looking at girls and studying the interactions with girls, I would surmise that there is also the new equation, the bully, the bullied, the victim, the bystander, and the instigator. And the bystander is the person who stands by. They see everything, they say nothing. The instigator is like a fly. They just keep flying around. They're buzzing from the bully to the bullied, carrying information. They're the he said, she said people. They're going to go back and keep the flame going at all times. Somebody comment in the chat, or you can just say it out loud. Who do you think is the most important person in this bullying equation? Anybody? You can take a guess. There are no wrong answers, no wrong answers. The person, bullard, bystander, the instigator, the bystander. Good answers. So let me tell you, the bystander is the most important person. And that's why I teach my girls that we're going to be upstanders over bystanders. The bystander, like I said, they see everything, but they say nothing. In today's culture, if you ever work at a high school, and maybe in college even now at this point, if a fight ever breaks out, turn around and take a look at how many people do this. They pull their cell phones out and they record. They don't call for help, they record, and they record the fights. There was an incident April 21st, 2016, and I tell this story all the time because this was about the time where I started having more presentations at schools, and I remember being heartbroken when I heard this story. Amy Francis was killed in a bathroom at Howard High School of Technology. And Nobody wants to get help. Everybody pulled their phones out. And I remember the night that she passed away, the news media came up and the reporter said, had one person gone to get help, she may still be living today. Now, we don't know that to be true, but had one person put the phone down and ran to get a teacher, an administrator, a coach, anybody who could have stopped that fight, she may still be living. And so I impress upon my girls all the time that you don't have to get involved in the fight. You don't have to run to the fight. Go get help. Because if it were your sister, your brother, your cousin, somebody that was near and dear to you, you would definitely want that help. You definitely want them to go get help. And so I impress upon them that the bystander has the power. You can stop. The instigator, like we said, it's a fly. They're going to just go around and you can just ignore them. But the bystander who sees everything and says nothing truly has the power. So don't be a bystander. All right. All right, so this is just a moment of reflection. You don't have to tell me, you don't have to say it out loud, but just reflect. Have you been the bully? Have you been the bullied or the victim? Have you been the bystander? Have you seen the bullying take place? And have you not said anything? And have you been the instigator? And I don't want your answers. You don't have to answer me. This is a personal, but definitely, you know, I've been the bystander before. I think before I started Sans Child, I was probably too afraid to say anything. I'd be like, oh, I don't have a place in this fight. Now, one of my friends calls me the bully destroyer. I take up for anybody. I see you on the street messing with people. I'm like, you stop that, you stop. So I think that there's a place for that, a safe place for it. Don't go out and stop in fights, but there is a safe place for that. So thank you for sharing that with me. All right, so let's go to the next one.
And Dr. Turner.
Yes, ma'am.
Just wanted to let you know the time. We're at 12 o'clock Central.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. All right, so what does workplace bullying look like? Impossible deadlines. Your boss gives you a deadline. It's not even possible. It's 3 minutes before the meeting starts and they say, go do this. Withholding necessary information, aggressive attitudes. Anytime you ask for something, it's always with a negative vibe. Making an employee feel worthless, like they're not worthy of talking to you. Offensive jokes. And we all know what offensive jokes can be like. Microaggressions. And so we have a lot of microaggressions, especially among women. We say stuff like, girl, your hair looks nice today. Or, oh my gosh, you finally got a nice bag, a Brahmin bag. Or, oh, you finally got your car washed. And it's just little bitty things. It's very subtle, but it makes you feel a certain way after it's said. And you're like, oh, so I don't look nice every other day, so I look nice today. And those subtleties sometimes, or I've had people to say, how's your little program going? And it's just those things that make you say, well, why does my program have to be little? I mean, it is little in size, but we're growing. But it's those things that really make you wonder about the microaggressions. Spreading rumors. And sometimes it's not a rumor, because you've developed friendships with people. So now you're gossiping. And then you get to a point where you're excluding and you're isolating people. This one, for me, is huge. It's constant criticism without coaching. Criticism is fine at work. I think it's necessary, it helps you to grow, but definitely with coaching followed with it. So if you want to criticize with coaching. How can I get better? How can I grow you as a professional? How can I help you to become better in this area? Verbal assaults. And when we talk about verbal assaults, we talk about insults, cursing, all of those things. Lastly, and this is the one that we never wanted to escalate to, but in certain cases it has happened, is the physical assaults, when people have taken their life into their own hands and beat up people. All right, so we're going to go through these very quickly in the interest of time, but I want you to tell me if it's a bullying situation or not. So you can just put a yes or Y or an in the chat. So the first one is texting or calling an employee at 1 o'clock a.m. about an 8 o'clock a.m. deadline. So is this a bully situation or not? Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. All right, very good. We're all on the same page. Next one is purposely not inviting certain team members to meetings or outings. Yes, 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 yes. Very good. Yes. The third one, not speaking to or acknowledging employees when you see them in the elevator or hallway. Now, this one could be either or. I guess somebody could say, you just have hurt feelings and people don't have to speak to you. I guess it really depends on perception because they really doesn't have to necessarily be bullying. You're not doing anything to hurt them. It may be rude, but not necessarily bullying. Exactly. Regina said professional courtesy, just a professional courtesy. The next one is reprimanding an employee who calls in after having an emergency tooth extraction. Definitely, definitely a problem. Berating somebody for having a tooth extraction. The next one would be sending an employee to a meeting that was really an impromptu interview for a job for the new and upcoming boss. And they didn't know that. They thought they were just going to a meeting. What do you say about that one? No, I see some no's. I see some yeses on that one. Somebody said depends, maybe, no. So it depends. That may not be it. And then the next one is, let's see, removing an employee from a project without notice and never telling the employee that they were removed. Definitely yes. And then the last one is withholding pertinent information from the employee. Absolutely. So this is the thing. Every one of these things has happened to me. And I'll tell you this story quickly. It's my bully story. I have a friend who is a consultant. She's very polished, very professional. And we met for lunch one day. And I told her, I said, I'm looking for a job. I just really got to get out of my current job. I just feel so toxic and the environment is just so heavy. I just hate going. And I said, I pray every morning. This is me speaking to her. I said, we were at a restaurant. I said, I pray every morning that I could have a fender bender, not to kill me, not to hurt my car, but just to keep me out of work for a couple of days. And my friend stopped. She put her fork down and she said, how dare you say that? And I said, I don't want to go to work. And she said, at this point, this has become a problem. And I didn't even realize it was a problem because I just thought, well, this is normal, but maybe if I can take some days off. But my boss was so heavy about taking days off that I was like, I'll just get into a fender bender. Who prays to be in a fender bender? Not anybody who is in their right mind. But the stress of bullying will really hurt that. I see you said, how do you tell someone they're a bully? So really, it's one of those courageous conversations that you have to have, and you would document it, definitely document it. And then this is, and kind of what Z is saying, why don't people say much of anything? Well, many are afraid of retaliation. What's going to happen if I tell? It can create a more hostile work environment. The bully was once a friend. We had those friendships, something happened, and I still have those lingering ties with the person, so I don't speak up. And then we don't really know in every case what the actual definition of bullying is. And this is the reason why I didn't say anything. I needed my job. And this is the reason why a lot of people stay, because they need their jobs. And the last one is, it kind of goes to, I need my job. The bully is better than the bully that you don't know. And that was my thought process. What if I get somewhere else? What if I get another worker and they're meaner? I could just stay here and deal with this one. I know them. I know their quirks. I know their idiosyncrasies. I can just stay here and deal with that. It's definitely hard to tell your boss that you're the bully, but I think in that case, Z, what I did and I had to learn to do by going through therapy was I had to set boundaries. So you may not have to say you're the bully, but you set boundaries. So when I was getting those 1 a.m. phone calls to have work ready by 8 o'clock, I had to have a conversation with my boss to say, good morning. I'm not accepting phone calls past 5 o'clock. According to this policy, my day ends at 5 o'clock. 1 o'clock in the morning is not correct. It's not fair. I'm sleeping. People call at 1 o'clock in the morning for emergencies. And I remember having to have that talk with my boss. It was very uncomfortable. And I didn't call her the bully, but every time she passed the boundary, I would make sure I came back and reinstated that boundary. And it was difficult. It is very difficult, but it's so necessary, very necessary for your peace of mind, for your mental health. The impact of workplace bullying. And this is the part where the employee is impacted. Sleeplessness, anxiety, depression, lack of productivity, lack of creativity. I missed a lot of work. I don't want to go to work. So I was trying to have fender benders, on the way to work. Feelings of hopelessness, insecurity, low self-esteem, migraine headaches, because stress becomes very pronounced in the body. But what about the business impact? Loss of money, loss of productivity, because people aren't working. Employee turnover, people are quitting faster than you can turn around. Training and then retraining people. Low employee morale, and definitely potential lawsuits if the bullying is based on any of those protected classes. Definitely, most bullies don't think they're the bully. That's unfortunate. I think we have time for this short video. It's about 2 minutes, and it kind of reinforces what we've kind of talked about today.
Minute MBA, true cost of a bad boss. 3 out of 4 working Americans say their boss is the most stressful part of their job. 44% say they've been verbally, emotionally, or physically abused by a supervisor or boss at some point in their career. And 31% of workers say their boss just doesn't appreciate them. Sounds like a big group of whiners, doesn't it? Actually, employees with subpar management have the right to complain. And this dissatisfaction is costing businesses and the American economy big money. The economy. Bad working relationships between management and employees cost the economy $360 billion each year from lost productivity. Fake sick days, dawdling because of low motivation, and purposefully making mistakes out of spite are all direct results of a bad boss, and it costs the economy big bucks. Health is at stake. Anyone who's ever had a bad boss knows they can't just shake them off when they turn in their 2 weeks' notice. In fact, it takes people 22 months to restore their stress levels to a healthy range after a bout of terrible boss. Also, people who are stuck working for someone horrible are more susceptible to chronic stress, depression, and anxiety, which all increase the risk of a lowered immune system, colds, strokes, and even heart attacks. All those sick days and visits to the doctor, acupuncturist, massage therapist, and psychologist are costing companies a pretty penny in health costs and lost work days. Last but not least, a bad boss produces some very real costs in the form of recruitment costs, lost productivity during new hire training, and in cases that escalate, legal fees. One organization who did the math on real money lost in a year because of one boss's bad repertoire with employees added up to a whopping $160,000, well above the average managerial salary in many industries.
Wow. Definitely a lot to think about. And like we said before, I think Z mentioned it, a lot of people don't even realize they're the problem. They don't realize they're the bullies, but some do. So let's be clear, some really do. They do know. Others do not. They may be oblivious to it because they just think that this is how they've been socialized, they've been raised to behave that way. And so this is what they really think is supposed to happen. So these are strategies to cope with workplace bullying. Number one, if you're the bully, stop. If you know you're the bully, stop. Stop bullying people. Get help. I believe, I will say it over and over again, hurt people hurt people. I definitely believe that. I believe that is absolutely true. And if you have some undiagnosed pain, some trauma from childhood. A lot of time when we haven't gone to take the necessary steps, we put that trauma onto other people. So if you know you're a bully and you can't help yourself, go get help. Go talk to somebody, get therapy, get counseling. If you are being bullied, this is the hardest part. Like Z said, how can you talk to the bully? You have to tell the bully to stop. You have to say it. I mean, it's the hardest thing you will ever do, but it's probably the most invigorating and the most freedom that you will ever feel for standing up for yourself. Document, document, document. Document day, time, the moment it happens, document it. And I would not keep those documents at work, but I would definitely document every occurrence that happens because it's important if you're trying to get some help. And you get help because that emotional trauma that you feel every day I had to get help and talk to a therapist about why I wanted to have a fender bender. That is not logical. That's not logical to want to damage your car just a little bit so you don't have to go to work. That is not logical. Remain professional and calm. Now, this is a challenge. If somebody has their finger in your face or if they're pushing you to be aggressive, remaining professional and calm could be very, very difficult, but you have to do it in the workplace. Create a circle of trust. Now, this can be at work or it can be at home. When I was going through bullying, my family knew everything that was going on. They were my circle of trust. I knew I could trust them. I knew that they weren't going to share my secrets, that they had my back. And so I told them a lot about what happened at work. Report it. Find out who the HR person is over that. Talk to your supervisor about it. And I finally quit my job. And I'm not encouraging anybody to quit your job, but I am encouraging you to get mental health and to help yourself first, because many times it weighs on us. And I started having headaches where I couldn't sleep. I had to sleep sitting up. And I remember I read a book or something, I saw it, and it said, if it costs you your peace, it costs too much. So I can get another job. I can't get another me once this body is gone. If you're the bystander, don't be a bystander. If you see something, say something. Stand up, speak up. Don't shut up for those being bullied. And I'm not saying rush to a fight, rush to engage, but I am saying if you see something, definitely say something. If you're a friend of a bully and you know your friend is the bully and they're bullying their coworkers or their personnel, have a talk with your friend and just bring it to their attention.
Dr. Turner, just letting you know the time is 12:15.
Okay, I am wrapping up. Just a couple more slides. Not speaking up. So what does not speaking up do? It perpetuates the behavior. So people do not change because nobody is saying anything. It gives the bully more power because the bully is like, oh, nobody's saying anything. I'm going to keep on trucking along. I don't care if people quit. No skin off my nose. It creates workplace insecurity. People go to work and they're unhappy. They're not even working because they can't really process. They're trying to figure out how to get out of here. And it deflates, deteriorates, and defeats employees. You have a workforce of people who are just very unhappy, and you don't want that. It creates a toxic work culture. And I think it was Laura who said some people are scared to speak up because they're scared the bully will come for them. And that's absolutely, absolutely, absolutely true. And so sometimes you have to have a friend who maybe has some years in, some good retirement, or a wealthy husband who doesn't mind taking that chance for you to speak up on your behalf. One thing that Dr. King said that really started helping me to say things more when it was uncomfortable was, in the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. And so I am, like my friends call me, a self-proclaimed bully destroyer. I'm gonna always say something. And I try to say it with class, with grace, with integrity. But I think at the end of the day, if we are friends with the bully and we see the behavior, we have an obligation to stand up, not to run out, not to beat anybody up, not to get so deeply involved that we lose our jobs, but even just to be an advocate for the person, to go to the person who's being bullied and say, hey, I got your back. I'm here for you. I'm in your circle of trust. So I'll go back to the first question. We had a couple examples of workplace bullying. So take a couple seconds, 30 seconds. And now, do you still feel like it's a fact, a myth? Are you still not sure? You need more evidence than I've provided? Very good. I'll leave you with the final thought. As Bethany said, I'm working with my organization. We're finishing up our workbook, and one of the workbook chapters is called Mean Girls Don't Die, They Grow Up. And what this means is if you're a bully at 7 and that behavior is unchecked, you're a bully at 17. If you're a bully at 17 and that behavior is unchecked and no one says anything, you're a bully at 27. If that behavior is unchecked and you're a bully at 27, 37, it continues if it's unchecked and nobody says. Can you mute yourself, whomever the caller is? I'm sorry. But if that behavior is unchecked, the mean girls don't die. They continue to grow up, and they grow up and they become our bosses. They become our friends. They become our coworkers. They become the people that we encounter every day. And so one of the things that I'm doing, and it's my passion to do it in Sand's Child, is to check that behavior now while they're still young enough that they can change. Because once you get to 45 and 55 and 65, it's a little harder to change that way if that's something that you've been socialized to believe, that behavior. So we definitely want to check that behavior and make sure that we have girls who are not the mean girls forever. Any questions that you all have for me? Any concerns? Thank you, Laura. A lot of times the bully will stand down if you confront them, because a lot of bullies are actually afraid. You know, Dave Chappelle's mother told him, sometimes you have to be a lion so that you can be a lamb. And so I think a lot of times bullies they're worse at their bark, but they're not really that tough. They bark tough, but they're not really that tough. And when you confront them, they kind of realize that, oh, this person is not going to take my stuff. So they're going to back down. And it's difficult. I won't ever tell anybody it is not difficult. I've had to do it a couple times, but I felt better after I stood up for myself. And I definitely encourage you to stand up for yourself if you have not done so.
I had a similar thing. Well, I've been bullied several times. This is Laura. I've been bullied several times in my life, but in high school, I had one lady or young girl who wanted to bully me quite often. And finally, I wasn't going to take it anymore. I was done. And she wanted to start a fight. She hit me. And when she did, I threw my books down and I started after her, but then I stopped because I had so many thoughts in my mind saying what was going to happen, what could happen to me. And I had my mom's keys in my hand. I was afraid I'd lose them. And then I was headed for my job because I went to work after study hall. And it just all that went through my mind. And I stopped and I looked at her and I said her name and I said, you're really not worth it. You're not worth me getting upset and me getting in all this trouble. And I turned around, walked off sideways, picked up my books and walked past her. The rest of the school year, she never would look at me. She would turn her head and she was ashamed. Many years later, I get on a bus, I get in Murfreesboro and was headed to Arkansas, but was going to Nashville. We stop off in Murfreesboro. This little girl comes up and says, "Can I sit with you?" And I said, "Well, I don't know you. I mean, you have to ask your mom." That young lady come walking up and said, "You don't remember me, do you?" And she said her name, and I went, "Oh my gosh." And she stopped, and in the conversation, it freaked me out because I'm like, "Oh no, what's going to happen here?" But during the ride from Murfreesboro to Nashville, she ended up telling me, "Thank you. Thank you for standing up for yourself. You're the smallest kid in high school, and you're the one that stood up and showed me I can't do that to people." That made me
Wow.
feel good. And so that's when I've learned you got to stand up. If you don't stand up for yourself, the bully is going to continue because that's their thrill. And if you
Yep.
show them you're not going to give them that thrill, they've got to back off.
Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly. And it's a difficult thing to do. But like you said, you feel so much better once you stand up and you get that off your chest, because nobody deserves to go to work in an environment that's toxic, or they hate going to work. That's not fair to anybody. And it's not fair to the company, because people aren't producing when you can't be creative and excited about work. You have so many other things going on that you're not really effective. Thank you for sharing that, Laura.
You're welcome. Also, too, being young. If you're
Oh,
young
yeah.
in a workplace and you've got an older boss, that makes it hard because you don't really know how to
Right.
handle it, and
Right.
that is when the young person should go to someone else and say, "Hey, I've got this issue." Like you said uh, uh, a few minutes ago, they should go to someone who's had some experience, who can help them work through their bulliness that they're getting from their boss. Because
Absolutely.
when you're young, you're scared. You don't know what to
Yeah,
do. You don't want to jeopardize a job that you just got. So, yeah.
absolutely.
So, Dr. Turner, I want to say thank you for speaking to us today on the topic of workplace bullying, especially as it relates to women, because I'm sure a lot of people don't realize how bullying is an issue with adults. And on top of that, it's an issue with women. And one thing about women in higher education in Tennessee, or WET, we definitely, our organization, we're here to address concerns and issues related to women, women in general, especially in higher education, because we do consider ourselves a source of support for women. And just to let you know how timely your topic is today, last month I attended a session that was hosted by the American Council on Education, because they have a women's leadership speaker series. And there were two professors who were authors of a book, but they talked about how women have a tendency to bully other women in higher education. And they said in their research, often it's because the person who's bullying, they feel unsure about themselves. And so that's why they're attacking other women, when as women, we should be supporting each other, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I just wanted to share that with you. Your topic is timely. Thank you for being an upstander and working with girls, because with your
Right.
nonprofit organization, you're mitigating that and helping to
Right.
prevent them from growing up to be bullies. So just want to thank you again for talking with us. And I want to thank everyone in the audience for joining us today. I've dropped a link to a survey for this session, because we definitely, in WET, we definitely want to hear your feedback so that we know what sessions and what topics you would like to hear more of. And also, I just want to remind you about next week, March 16th, an evening with WET. Our speaker will be Dr. Tania Stewart. And also stay tuned to your email, because we will also have another WET Wednesday in April. So with that being said, I hope everyone enjoys the rest of your day.
Bethany, somebody in the comments asked about the link to the video. I'll send the link to you, Bethany, along with the PowerPoint, and you can send that out, that video link to them.
Sounds good. We can definitely do that. We can send it to all the folks who registered for this workshop today.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you. Thank you all for listening and being engaging today. I sure appreciate you.
Thank you.
That was great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Turner. It was very uplifting and enjoyable.
Thank you, V.
Next time we get together, I have to tell you